Welcome everybody to a special meeting of council where we will be looking at submissions from the, let me look, there we go, the annual business plan, exactly, that's what I thought it was. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed, recorded and published in accordance with the council's live streaming and recording of public meetings policy. To those present in the gallery today, by attending a public meeting of council, you are consenting to your image, voice and comments being recorded and published. Anyone who is invited to speak will be recorded and their voice, image and comments will form part of the live stream and recording. You'll most probably be lucky. You won't be seen. Thank you. There we go. Declaration of interest. Everyone's got the form, and if they need to declare a material or interest or otherwise, I'm guessing there are none. Thank you. Point 2 is the draft annual business plan and budget, and I would like someone to move that we go into general discussion or out of business. Councillor Ross, thank you very much, and Councillor Dennis. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you very much. Very good.
We can invite members of the public.
So this is an opportunity.
Through you, Mayor, can I just confirm that's for 1 hour set aside to allow?
Yep. So do we want to move straight into
Comments?
public discussion? Excuse me. Discussion. So, yeah, please tell us who you are and you know what your subject is. That'd be great.
Yep. So I'm Virginia Harvey, and I'm representing the Francis Progress Association. We have put in a request for what was $55,000, but now been amended to $45,000. To make sure that our round figure $700,000 new netball tennis court facility at Francis will be complete, and what the $45,000 will do is to put a new fence around it. So I have a whole spiel, but so shall I just go forth? Okay.
Please.
First of all, we'd like to thank you for taking the time to listen to our request. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Virginia Harvey. I'm a resident of Naracoorte for the past 27 years. Some may be confused why I, a resident of Naracoorte, am fronting this request for Francis. In short, my Francis and Minimay is where I call home. My husband Richard is the president of the Border Districts Football Club. I'm the treasurer of the Border Districts Netball Club, and also the person who cooks your council dinners when you come to Francis in August. So I hope you all have your dietary requirements into Josie for my next visit. My children play football and netball at Francis. I also have 3 nephews who belong to Melissa here, who's also on the Francis, what are we? Progress Association. She's the secretary. And I would love to see them with others be able to play football and such at Francis for a long time to come. This request is a definite need for the Township of Francis. It is not an extravagant want. To ensure the optimum use of the new courts as well as the security of the courts themselves, the fence is simply a must. From the original advice and quotes for the $600,000 federal grant to what is now going to be a superior, longer lasting facility for those, there is a cost difference. When I say superior, instead of being extended, the whole court will actually be demolished and rebuilt with engineering, drainage, laser levelling and a new acrylic sporting surface. We've consulted with our contractors and suppliers, finding budget cuts. So from our original quote of lighting for $85,000, we have now gone down to, we will be going with one of 2 options, either $46,000 or $23,000. The original pricing for fencing was $92,000, that is now down to $55,000. These courts will be a well-used facilities for decades to come. As I stated to Kelly and Alex when we met with them a couple of weeks ago, Border Districts is the only club in the league that has increased their football teams from 2 to 4 in the last 4 years. We have a large number of junior 8 to 12-year-old netballers playing, along with our full list of netball sides that we have had for the last 10 years. The future is very solid at Borders. Add to this, the Francis Tennis Club has recently come out of a 10-year recess and is now playing with 1 senior side and 2 junior sides. The current courts are not fit for purpose, and with the running repairs that have been carried out for many years, they are now at the end of their life. We are facing the prospect of no netball in Francis, which equals no football either. What now? As you would all be aware, our local hotel, through no fault of the communities, was shut down 18 months ago. If we lose football and netball, that leaves bowls. That's all they have as a meeting hub. It is true that the Board of Districts has 2 other grounds to play on, but all 3 grounds facilities need to be supported by their own communities. If we lose Francis, we will lose players, because extra travel to Goroke on a more regular basis is not sustainable for many. They would not only be lost to Borders, but could be lost to sport altogether, and therefore another loss to the surrounding leagues and associations. I am sure that Naracoorte, Lucindale and Kaibi will not be in favour of having to travel to Goroke every 1 or 2 years opposed to every 3 or 4. This affects more than just Francis. Francis as a community is resilient, self-sufficient, and has, as I have stated in my information, the Rec Reserve pays $40,000 a year in insurance, power, maintenance and repairs. They mow their own grounds and maintain their own town square. We do not believe that Francis asks for much. The question has been asked if we could take out a loan to complete this project. Unfortunately, this is not possible, as our organisation does not have an income stream to be able to reliably pay any kind of loan. In your paperwork, it said that our request 45, the original amount was 55. I want to make it clear that this request has not been taken lightly by the Francis Progress Association. We, like everyone in the community, know how tough times are. In any other year, I feel very confident that we could put the call out to the wider community of Francis, and we may not raise it all, but we would have a good crack. Sadly, this is not the year to be asking the community for anything. We actually have no other option. We have another grant application and letters of request in play. We are not looking for the easy way out, but we are trying to confirm that this much needed development at Francis will be completed. It has been suggested by some of the councillors we've spoken to apply for the drought relief grant that's been going around. We actually have, but because we only have 21 members, it's only $1,500, and we are not allowed to use that for any infrastructure or facility costs. We currently have a grant application in at the Elders Community Grant worth up to $20,000. Australian Grain Technologies community donations of up to $10,000, and a letter of request to the Lake Charlie Grove Music Marathon as another source of funds. Outcomes of these we will not know for a while. If there are any of those come to fruition, Council will be notified, and the full amount we will not take from you. If we get 20 grand, we won't be taking that from you, which will give you a surplus, which I'm sure will put a smile on someone's face. In conclusion, I request that the Council look upon this request favourably, as it will not only affect the local Francis residents playing sport, but their local social activities, which are badly in need, especially in the current stressful climate. A community meeting place with fellowship, food and sport is imperative for people's well-being. If these courts are not completed, there will be nothing in our community. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jenny.
If there's any questions.
Yes, I'm sure there may be. Some questions from the floor to Jenny. Anything you'd like to?
Virginia.
Jenny, some clarification on? Councillor Ireland.
Understand, Mayor Ross?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Mayor Ross. Thanks for your talk, Virginia. If you can just enlighten me a little bit more, please, about the Francis Progress Association and the Bordertown Board of Districts, my apologies, Board of Districts football and netball,
Yep.
what the tie-up is between those two? Because
Yep.
you said that you haven't got an income stream yourselves,
Yep.
but I just wonder whether football club and netball club come into that.
Yep, that's fine.
Thank you.
So the Francis Progress Association was actually started by a small group in Francis a couple of years ago with the specific aim of applying for grants. Because, as I said, the football club now plays at Apsley, Goroke and Francis, as does the netball club. So each ground is the own town's responsibilities. So the football club won't go for grants because you can't split it over three. So the Francis Progress, so they applied, Mel can probably fill in a bit more what you have applied for.
Before now?
Yeah.
So the progress was really put in place to be able to, sorry, can I just go back a step? We also have a recreation reserve committee in Francis, which actually is charged with the task and has the lease of the recreation reserve of the grounds that our oval and our courts and our bowls club sit at. So that committee is charged with that task, and that is what they do. So they fundraise largely through cropping to be able to maintain our facility. The progress came along, I guess, to be able to do something a little bit extra for the community. So things like we now have a town square, largely thanks to some funding that the council helped us out with. We've got like town entrance signage. We've been able to do a few little projects for the community. So that's really our role. So the Francis community really has to look after the facility that we've got so that Board of Districts come and play at our facility. And then the same for Borders is at Apsley and also Goroke. So the Apsley community looks after their facility, the Goroke community does the same. And then the club simply comes and plays. So it's very much in our community's best interest to have the best facility that we can be, so that Board of Districts wants to come and play sport in Francis. Does that answer your question, Peter?
Thank you. In some way, I just wonder whether the netball club can be somehow, if they're willing to take on some borrowings for this.
So we as the netball club have already will be contributing in excess of $43,000 towards this project. So our funds now are that was old money that has been in term deposits, and it has built and built and built. And because, as I said, we've got 3 courts, so if the netball club pays for the Francis loan as such, then we would then have to find the same sort of money to give to Goroke and Apsley, because that's sort of how it's all been now structured with the 3 different grounds.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate, no, please don't be sorry. I fully appreciate it's a very unusual scenario, I suppose. And the football club and netball club do give nominal amounts to each recreation reserve but that goes towards the power and to the insurance, because we have 3 lots of power, we have 3 lots of insurance, we have 3 lots of everything, which each town pays for.
Yep. Sorry for putting you on the spot. Thanks,
No,
Virginia.
that's fine.
Thank you very much.
Hope we answered it okay.
Tell me something, is there a relationship, a formal relationship between Goroke, Bordertown and Apsley?
No, Bordertown, Francis.
Not Bordertown, Border Districts rather,
Yep.
Francis?
Yep. So Border Districts and Goroke merged 26 years ago this year. So Goroke is not just a playing facility, but they are another playing facility that Border District. So Goroke and Borders are officially merged in 1999.
A single entity?
They are a single entity.
Yep.
And then last year we had community members that defected from Eden Hope Apsley and came to play at Borders, and with that we use the Apsley ground. So Eden Hope Apsley still exists, but they do not use the Apsley facilities at all. It is just Apsley community members that are involved with the recreation reserve that wanted their facilities used, came to Borders because they wanted to play, plus they wanted games at their town. So Eden Hope Apsley still exists on their own.
So you don't play any sport at Apsley?
Yeah.
Oh, you do?
So in any year, every club gets 8 home games.
Yep.
So we have 3 home games at Francis, we have 3 home games at Goroke, and we have 2 home games at Apsley. All away trainings are at Francis. So Francis is the majority stakeholder for trainings. And last year, Francis had 3 home games, plus they got the final. So that division is actually something that is voted on at the first committee meeting after the AGM every year of who gets how many games.
Thank you. Councillor Dennis?
Thank you. I just probably analysing, the Board of Districts football clubs and netball club are a great institution. My only challenge with this is that over the years, in my 11 years in council, we've had a lot of requests from sporting clubs,
Yes.
and I suppose, and we have been very disciplined about creating a precedence where we don't favour one over the other. I suppose we've got lots of sporting clubs, so I think where a lot of the questions are coming from the floor are that we want to help Board of Districts football and netball club, but we'll have to take all the information into consideration and look at the precedent that it creates, and also try and, as it sort of come as a late item, that we can try and help, but that that's where our questions are coming from. I suppose, if you understand, if we're in the habit of just ripping 45 for each sporting club in the district, we've got to be really disciplined and careful.
Yep,
But I'm sure.
and that is fine. And I know a lot of it sounds like it is all around Board of Districts football and netball club, but as a facility in Francis, it does get used by the school, it does get used by the tennis, it does get used by obviously the netball. It isn't, pardon?
And the council.
And the council. It's a lovely meeting place, isn't it? It's just very pretty. So it's just I know a lot of it is Board of Districts, but at the end of the day, it is Francis, it is the town of Francis, and it is the community of Francis that just needs this help.
Any more questions?
Sorry.
Councillor Ireland, the floor is yours. We have lots of time.
Virginia, as far as the lights go, right at the very beginning you mentioned there was the possibility of 46,000 or possibly 23,000.
Yeah. So what that is we went from a contractor that comes with Landscape, but they were 85,000 for the lights. And that was new lights, new cabling, new everything. I thought they were slightly rich, so I approached Brad Redding, who gave us 2 options, knowing that we didn't know how much money we were going to have. So the expensive option is it will be all new cabling. The cheaper option is, because the courts are being expanded, because they are not to Netball Australia regulations, there has to be extra runoff between the end of the court and the fence on all sides. So the courts are actually being expanded, so all 4 towers have to come down. They are that old that they cannot be reused. So the cheaper option is just the 4 towers and the cabling from the existing cabling to the new towers. The more expensive one is all new cabling, but we are still using the existing lights. We had new lights put in 2022, so we're actually using the same lights. It's just new towers and cabling. So at this point, we will be going with the cheaper option, with the only drawback being if we need to upgrade our lights at all, any stage in the future, we will have to go all new cabling around the courts.
So the decision is for the cheaper 23,000?
Yes, yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, that's fine. Yes, Tom.
And just one more question. In relation to the existing grant money,
Yes.
so that's in your bank account,
That
ready to go?
is in a term deposit. So we have received, nobody actually understands why, but out of the $670,000, we got paid $560,000 2 months ago.
Yeah.
So we double checked that we were allowed to, so we've put that straight into a term deposit. And that will stay there. We get another 99,000 in July, which will also go into a term deposit. The 41 1 and a bit thousand that the Netball Club have is also in a term deposit at this stage, and we will be looking to get a payment schedule as such from our contractor to work out what monies we can leave in term deposits for how long to get the absolute last cent out of everything, to help this budget situation as best we can.
So just so is that money contingent on a timeline of fulfilling this project?
The courts will be finished by the end of January.
Okay.
So in what we have worked out with the contractor is that the posts for the fence will go in with the concrete pour. So even if you guys don't give us the money, we'll have some lovely black posts in our concrete ready to rock and roll. And that was for 2 reasons. Number one, it is more, if we have to pour around the outside, the fence is not, which is what you would have to do. The fence is then not as secure, it's not as stable, and it's not a very good playing surface, especially for tennis, because it doesn't sit flat, so you lose your balls down the hole. So we have worked out with the contractor that no matter what happens, those fence posts are going in with the pour of the courts.
Thank you. Councillor Maguire.
Oh, she just answered my question. Thank you, Mayor. So, excellent. Thank you.
Councillor Turner.
I'm just going to make an observation, not a question, but it seems to me that the project's a little bit more than just a fence around the netball court. To do that, like you say, it's a community hub, and you've got a project that's nearly $750,000 you've funded, and this is sort of like the last mile of that project. And to me, if an organisation was to give $45,000 to a community to support them during tough times, drought or whatever, it would just be like a drop in the ocean. But I find that these sporting hubs become the central part of towns like Padthaway or like Francis, where everybody in that community goes to be part of the community, and it benefits people, both families, children, and from a mental stress point of view. So I look at this project a little bit wider than just a fence. I think it's more than that, and the timing of it is quite significant. So I've gained quite a lot from your presentation, and thank you for it.
Thank you.
I'd just like to ask, Councillor Crossley.
Sorry. Thanks, Ginny. Thanks, Mel. I just wanted to point out a couple of things, and I think the 45 ask is not a lot in the scheme of things. We're, as a council, funding $40,000 for a new driveway at Yakka Park in conjunction with the Lions over at Lucendale. So I think as far as Francis goes, as a community, they're very, very proactive. They have worked with council on a number of occasions, including the town square. They helped out with their entrance signs, and I don't think, like Ginny said, they asked for very much. So I think 45,000, and that could be less if you end up getting funding from other locations. I think we're looking at this from a netball and football perspective, but it's actually the tennis club that's out there and has been growing rapidly over the last few years. Tennis is going really well out there, and a fence is obviously very needed for tennis. We don't need to be running and getting tennis balls out of the trees all the time. So, and also just to remind people, we did support the Naracoorte Netball Club with $100,000 towards their courts only a couple of years ago. That may have come out of a different bucket of funds, but it was still council money. So I understand when we say we've got a lot of sporting clubs, and we've obviously had our sporting audit that shows what we need to do and assist clubs. And you guys are very proactive, as whether it's the clubs or the Progress Association or the Rec Reserve, in gaining these funds, whether it's been for your beautiful facility out there with club rooms on these courts. So you guys go above and beyond, I think, in actually doing the work yourself. So I think this ask in the scheme of things, I know we're in a tough time, but it's not that much. And as you said, if you get other funding, maybe less. So I'm very supportive of the application.
Thank you, Councillor Crossley. Councillor Maguire.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to support it as well. I know it is a tough time, as we keep saying, and that'll come up a few more times tonight. But your football club and netball club is basically a farmer based club, which is probably even more reason for us to support this. As you said, it is a hub for you all to get together and talk and communicate. So I think that sort of is a good reason for us to be supporting it. I do understand the comments about setting a precedent for other clubs, and I think that's something this council has gone down the road. This is just my opinion, for too long, because there is a lot of ageing facilities in all of our sporting clubs around the area, and unless council starts putting their hand into their pocket to help these clubs and taking each club on their own merit, I think a lot of clubs are going to struggle. So I think we as a council, just my opinion, need to probably change our mentality a little bit. Just for an example, we've got an item tonight which is for recreation, which is over 300,000. But if just for example, if we could distribute that amongst clubs needing a project that is shovel ready like yours is, prepared, organised. I mean, and I think it would go a lot further in the community to help these clubs out. So not just yours, but the basketball's ageing. The Naracoorte soccer club, the hockey club has kicked a lot of goals. Pardon the pun, but yeah, hit a lot of goals. They're looking good, but there is a lot of clubs that are struggling. So I would like to see council support it as well.
Thank you, Councillor Maguire. Councillor Ross.
Just not one of the question, but yeah, well presented. I'm happy to support their requests, and given that it's only a maximum amount, and it sounds like there will be more money potentially coming back in to come back in to reduce it. Question I got here is more to do with the CEO. So through the chair to Kelly. In agenda item, is it 3.3? We talk with the budget. It talks about it being out of the operational budget for the commitment of 45. Does it need to be in the operation, or can it be can it be something that we can take out of cash reserves? So, just a question.
Question for the council. Thank you, Councillor Ross. Can I? Yeah. Actually, I might just have a question here because I'm not that. I do a bit of sport, but the thing that stands out to me, Virginia, is insurance. So this is a question. I just wondered, do you play that to an association? Netball Australia, because it's a big item, and we all know that 40 grand coming from every club.
That is just for the facilities. That is just the Francis, so that covers the netball actual club, the football club, the bowling club, so that's for the actual facilities. Pardon?
Liability.
And the liability, yeah, so, and then for every person who registers to play, because it's all wonderfully done on wonderful technology, their insurances are actually all then done through Netball SA or SANFL football. So it's not for the actual players and volunteers as such, it is for the actual, for all our wonderful things that may or may not happen out in the sticks.
Yeah, thank you.
No, thank you.
Councillor.
One question, and that is this likely to be formalised tonight in some way? That's just a governance question. And secondly, look, in principle, although this process has been a bit clunky and the timing hasn't been ideal, I think the 45,000 in proportion to the funds that these people have been able to secure is relatively minor. And while there's a lot of competing interest in the budget, given that we're at the stage where we're at with this project, or these people are, I think it's worth supporting.
Thank you, Councillor Grundy. Well, thank you.
Thank
very
you for
much.
your time. I might even make you a vanilla.
That's what we're here. We're here to serve, Virginia. That's what we're here for.
No, thank you very, very much for your time. We really, really appreciate it. And I'd really like to thank Alex. She's been wonderful to help me get organised and get here and let me know what I needed to do and when. So thank you very, very much.
Excellent.
Thanks,
you very
guys.
much.
Have a
Thank
good time.
So, at this juncture, we are still open for public consultation.
We can go back into formal proceedings, and then if somebody does show up, then we can go back into informal and accept that.
I'd like to move that we go back into formal.
Councillor Dennis, thank you. Thank you very much. A seconder, please. Councillor Crosling, all those in favour? Carried. We have now item 3. Mrs Collins.
Oh, thank you very much, Mayor Ross. So the report provided in today's agenda features community feedback as a close of business on Tuesday the 27th of May when the agenda closed of today's meeting. You'll also find a 2-pager on your desk tonight, which was also emailed late this afternoon, with feedback received during the period after close of the agenda and before midday today. We haven't had any more later this afternoon. So far, we've had 15 submissions, which is great, and it's exactly the same amount as last year. Public consultation will close on the draft annual business plan and budget at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. I'll leave it up to you.
Thank you, Mrs Collins. So I'm sure everyone's had the opportunity to go through all of that since it's come in since lunchtime. And I'd like someone to move that we receive the public submissions. What we call it? Public feedback. Would someone like to move that we receive that? Councillor Turner, Councillor Grundy, second. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you very much. Very good.
I was going to address the question about whether it comes from capital.
Okay, sure.
Thank you. So yes, as you heard from Ginny, very well spoken regarding the request for funding for the fencing around the netball courts. To add a bit more context to the report I provided, after the report had been prepared, when Kelly and I met with them originally, we did ask that they go back to the grant provider and ask if there was an opportunity for extra funds, and they did get confirmation back that there wasn't, so they did go down that route as well. In answer to your question, Damien, so this year we're looking at that operating deficit as it stands currently. Donations or financial support is classified as an operational expense, particularly because we don't own any assets out there. So it would impact that operating deficit by a further $45,000, as long as no other changes were made tonight. So hopefully that gives you context around that side of it. And as per the report, the recommendation or resolution is addressed in a further report.
Thank you very much. We're here at item 3.3. Thank you very much. And I'll ask Kelly. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, the most important thing here is to hear from the council members in relation to what they've been hearing in the community and how they're feeling about the draft that was sent out for consultation. So I think the report is pretty straightforward. We have provided you with some, I guess, financial analysis in terms of longer term rating impacts, etc. So I hope you've had a chance to look at those and ask any questions, but interested to hear your thoughts on this matter.
Some questions, please.
Questions or statements, or
How do we share our thoughts? Go to meeting procedure. I'm happy to.
I think we shall. Councillor Ross moved, Councillor Dennis second. We move out of meeting procedure at the appropriate time. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you very much. Statements or questions? Councillor Dennis.
will you stand in this part of the meeting as well? Standing or informal?
We can be informal.
Okay. Yeah, I suppose I just wanted to share my thoughts on the discussions I've had within the community, and it's been very, I suppose, it's been both sides of the argument. I think we can all recall the intense debate we had in the chamber last year around the recommended increase to our rates. That recommendation was not arbitrary, it was structured from a long-term financial plan, and there were many strong arguments made against raising rates by the full amount recommended, which I don't exactly recall correctly, I think it was 6 point something, 6.8. However, in the end, a firm and balanced determination was made, a 5% rate last year, a 5% rate rise this year, and then a 4% rate rise. 3 or 4 and then on. Since then, we've all been diligently reviewing and adjusting our future plans in the town. Many items have been flagged in our CBD master plan that have either been scrapped or scaled back in order to reduce costs and improve our financial resilience. I think now is the time to be disciplined, structured and responsible as a council, and we're certainly seeing a lot of pain out there in the community, but we are also, as councillors, required to fund our long-term viability. We must not shy away from what is needed. The Narra Court Lucindale Council has long stood on a foundation of prudent economic and financial management. We have a strong audit committee, regular and rigorous feedback mechanisms, and in recent times, excellent administrative support, especially from Alex and her team. It is a moment for discipline. If we choose to backtrack and not proceed to agree a 5% increase, we'll be undermining the financial trajectory we committed to. Worse still, we start to go down the same path as other councils and make erratic rate decisions by those who fly by the seat of their pants, and then when the bills pile up or are forced to hike rates by 18 and 25 or even up to 30% in a single year. That doesn't happen by accident. It begins with decisions like the one we have before us today. These are small acorns from which the oak tree of unsustainability grows, and panic-driven rate hikes follow. We must stay the course. A 5% increase this year is consistent with what we have promised. It is financially responsible. It is challenging to put forward this year, and considering the state our rural sector is in, but I think that they would want us to be maintaining their roads to a fair and equitable means, collecting their rubbish and continuing to repair our buildings and our infrastructure and improve our community, as we have heard from the Board of Districts Football and Netball Club tonight. As councils, however, we must have constant responsible stewards of the community and infrastructure. We must fund our depreciation, we must maintain our services, and we must keep our long-term financial plan intact. So that's probably what I wanted to say in conclusion, that we've got a big decision to make this year, and it's very challenging out there in the community, but I think this is the 5% rate rise is the right fortitude. So in the future, we can follow that path that has been shown to us and continue to reduce our rate burden on our community moving forward.
Thanks.
That was a bit long-winded.
That's good. No, you can have a bit of time. It's out of meeting procedure. There was some other discussion here.
Oh, I'll have a discussion. Things have changed since we first started working on this budget earlier in the year, to the point where the shortage of rainfall and the pressure on the farming community in particular, and the feedback we've got, that's one of the toughest years, not only last year but this year, and even with rainfall, it takes a long time to I guess restock or get yourself back to normal. I don't think people are looking for handouts. The article in the paper was quite good, headed by Mike Schinkel, that perhaps some support around low interest loans and just recognition of tough times. So in that recognition, to me, I'm in two minds. One, there are people in the community feedback that have called out some major projects, one being the playground in Leicester Street, the town upgrade, Main Street upgrade in Lucindale, as well as the swimming lake. And out of those three projects, the Lucindale Main Street upgrade is a long way down the path, and we've already kicked that further down anyway, and I think it's a good project. It would be foolish to even consider not doing anything in that space, and I think where we've landed from a design perspective is good. The swimming lake is not only for our town folk, but it's a commercial venture for the town too, that brings in visitors and tourists, and there's a long-term plan around, a master plan around the swimming lake, and these things have to be done at some point in time. So I'm still in favour of doing up the hospitality part of the swimming lake, and I guess we've got 12 months to review it, but I'm not in favour of removing that cost from the budget either, even though it seems like a large project, because if we don't do it next year, we've got to do it the year after or the year after that. And if you look at the 10-year cycle, which good farming practices and good business would look at, we know over the 10 years we've got to pick timing and pick averages. But in that particular suite of projects there, that Leicester Street playground to me seems to be a hot spot, that one, it still has a useful life longer than what it needs to be pulled down and replaced next year. And I would like to see that particular project pushed out of the budget. it might be symbolic, it might be, okay, it's a cash flow implication as well, it's $360,000 or thereabouts. And I'm in favour of considering a rate reduction of 1% back to 4%. Again, it's more token than it is financial, but it sends a message, because I find a lot of people would just say, at all levels of government, you keep spending and no one's listening, and I would think that would just send a message that we are listening, and it's partly a token gesture, but also I think Councillor Dennis made some very good points that we need to be fiscally responsible over that cycle. So if we do take a 1% or anything out of the rate rise this year, then we need to amortise that over the coming years. So maybe one of those 4% or two of those become a 5%, or we have to consider reducing the cost on a project. But that, from my understanding, we raise about 14 million. So 1% rate reduction is about 140,000 in operational costs. The playground's 360. I know they don't necessarily match in the same box, but we could push that project out. That seems to be what a lot of feedback is. You're spending a lot of money in the town on things that are wants rather than needs. That was the consensus. I'm not saying I agree with or disagree with that, but I think that would send a message that we've listened, and that project doesn't need to be done next year. That playground has a continued useful life for a period of time, and we could review what we do with that project. And I know Councillor Maguire earlier was alluding to the fact that if we could spend 360 on one playground in town, or we could disperse that over sporting clubs. I've sort of got that intent. You didn't quite say that, but I think that's something we need to consider as well. So my position is I'll go with what the room votes for, but my position is I would indicatively like to see a 1% rate rise and that playground pushed out of this budget.
Councillor Maguire.
Thank you. I agree with nearly everything both Councillor Dennis and Councillor Turner have said. We have a financial responsibility, and it is tough times, I guess. And I am going to ask Kelly to provide the financials on all our that we have put into master plans for the Lucendale, for the town rejuve, for the sports centre, the swimming lake. There is quite a few, and it would be in the hundreds of thousands that I'm guessing that we have invested into these plans. Now, when we look at this and we've got feedback from 15 people, I take that on board, I do. But you've also got to understand we've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars and we have gone to consultation, and these projects are also what a large part of the community do want to see. So we could argue it either way, but we have been to consultation many a times, and I keep saying this, we might as well not go to consultation, or we might as well not do these master plans because we don't seem to act on them. I know it's a delicate year, so the part I do agree, I think we have a financial responsibility, but people in the community just want to see us spending sensibly, and I can see that the Leicester Street playground doesn't fit that category, and for that reason I agree with Councillor Turner, it should come out. But I do agree we have a responsibility financially to keep that rate set at 5%. And I will just say this, 1%, if we say tonight, let's go down to 4% rather than 5%, it is a smoke screen really. Our intentions are good, but it's $120,000 in the budget. You spread that over the district, we're sort of, it's here nor there. It's not helping anybody. Like if we gave a 0% rate increase, it's $120,000 over the whole district. So for that reason, I feel we're trying to look positive and win people over to a certain degree in the community, but really it's only $120,000. So for that reason, I'd like to stay firm on the 5%, which is what we did agree on initially, but take out projects that are a want, not a need.
Thanks. Councillor Maguire. I'm sure you'd be delighted to hear what I have to say. Well, I think it's important. I've talk widely, as many of us have within, around the community from all walks of life. And I do know that businesses in town have laid off people across the district. Businesses are losing people because, the work at the moment is drying up. The farming community is, they're rationalising where their money is being spent, absolutely, and that's absolutely what happens. And when there is money in farming, more broadly, the community benefits, business benefits. I think the important note out of that is that, farmers and primary producers and businesses, but primary producers I'm going to talk about more specifically because, they're the ones that, bring in a lot of money into the community and rate revenue. They are doing it tough. There's no doubt about that. And some of them are really financially struggling. There's no doubt about that. And we're about to make contingencies within what we do in this office to do what we can from a local government perspective. But even the other day, when Abby and I, Councillor Goodman and I, were at the Lucindale Post Office for an hour or so, fielding questions from the community, everyone wants less rates. That's a standard answer. That is always, it's the default answer. They do ask questions about certain projects, whether they might have been, whether it's a playground or whether it's a kiosk at the swimming lake or other things. But to a man and a woman, they all agree that spend the money well. That is the rule of that is what we are here to do, is to ensure that the rate revenue that is raised is spent well. And I think we're all in agreement with that. We can tinker at the edges with projects, but I think, we should set a course with a long-term financial plan. I concur with Councillor Dennis, and we should stay the course. I think it's important. And I've spoken with many large ratepayers, and they absolutely concur that if you've got a long-term business plan, this is what you should do. It's best for your business. And to be ducking and weaving, I like the analogy of an acorn, but the oak tree takes a long time to grow. But sometimes these disasters, which we've seen flowing from an earlier time during the early 2020s when we were doing nothing with rates, it's here now, and this is what we are dealing with. And so to kick it around is fraught with more danger. We see it in our ratios that, we're not quite there yet. And so I believe that, we need to be prudent, but we also need to be fiscally responsible. And I think that's what we have to discuss today. So thank you for allowing me that comment. Councillor Grundy.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Ross. Councillor Dennis, he's quite right to point out that last year we had a pretty heated discussion around rates and what that might look like over a 10-year period. And I think we all pretty much agreed that process that we agreed to, we should have stuck to. And that was rather than 6.8, it was 5 and 5 and 4 and 4, I think, from memory, which was going to deliver a better result at the end. And so I'm patently aware of that. I suppose what's become obvious to me and what has surprised me is the level of anguish over rates and that sort of thing in the community from people who I wouldn't have expected it from, I've got to say. And if you listen to the NFF and what have you, a lot of what they've been saying is that they want the farming fraternity want to be acknowledged, that there are problems and that there's financial hardship. It's not so much about the dollar value, but they want acknowledgement, and they want us all in this. They want us all in this together to some degree, I think. So it is a tough question, and I agree that going from 5% to 4% is only a shift of $140,000. It's relatively tokenistic.
And Councillor Grundy, any one of those farmers would love the 140, but as you say, it's a trifling amount.
Correct. Having said that, I'm more prepared to consider it if there is some expenditure which is dropped out, which is directly related to that. particularly for instance, 1 year, and by that I'm talking about, for instance, the Leicester Street playground. These are just my thoughts. I mean, whatever happens tonight, I'm happy to support. In the meantime, a couple of other points. I think that the farming fraternity should not be treated any differently from any of the other differential rating rates, cents and a dollar. Residential, commercial are all suffering indirectly or directly as a result of the couple of tough seasons that we've been experiencing. So I think whatever happens, I think we're all in it together and we should all be treated equally. And I'm willing to consider a lower, a 4%, for instance, but as long as it's on the back of some identifiable expenditure which is dropped out in the short term.
Thank you, Councillor Grundy. Any further discussion?
Mayor Ross, I'd just like to agree with Councillor Turner with his comments about the potential if we were to drop to 4% as a token in this environment that we're in, and whether we do make that up, if we've got to say we've got to aim for 5% next year if the situation recovers in the community economics. If I could ask Alex, I know that with compounding, I mean, if you're switching 4% for this year and then 5% for next year, is there going to be any major difference in doing so? Just off the top of your head.
Something I said earlier.
We're not talking big money, are we?
No, so as Craig mentioned, so the increase this year is about 609,000, so 1% equates to just over 120,000 in terms of the loss of income. I guess at the end of the day, you have to look at that from an operating deficit perspective. So instead of losing 200,000, we're going to be looking at 320,000. And then if you're supporting Francis, then you're looking at another 45. So all of a sudden you're back in the mid 300s for operating expenditure. Now, in my opinion, the council is financial in terms of money in the bank. So you can, I guess, absorb that operating deficit because you are strong financially with dollars in the bank. So cash at the end of the day will reduce because of it. From a long-term perspective, Caroline spent a lot of time, and that's why she's here tonight to help me with this side of it. But there is that flow-on effect of not capturing that income when the opportunity is there or when you make that commitment. You can see, we didn't do a 4%, say a 2.5. That has about a $6 million impact over 10 years. So to simplify that, it has a bit of a flow on each year. I guess from my perspective too, we talk a lot about where you're comfortable with that cash balance sitting at the end of the day as well. So in times gone past, we've talked about $4 million being that baseline, less, as Damien often says, that commitment to loan funding. So at the moment we sit at about the $2 million mark, so you're taking it back down to 2. So it has that flow on as far as consideration goes around all those sorts of things. So you could absolutely, in our next discussions around long-term financial plans, reassess that commitment or assumptions about mapping out. So yes, if you wanted to drop back to 4% this year, I guess the impact's not huge on on looking at 5% next year instead of going back to 4, if that's where we sat. I have a feeling we have another year at 5 and then 8 more at 4 though, isn't it, in the current long-term financial plan? So you'd technically be taking on another 2 years of 5%.
That was 3.
3 and 5 was there?
Well,
I thought it was
there were
2.
2, but and the 2
So
has
the first
gone
year
over.
of
So
the
really,
2
there's 3 since we were last year, but there's 2 and 2 lots of 5 and 8 lots of 4.
Okay.
So if you're pushing it on, you'd be looking at, and you were committing to that, you'd be looking at 26, 27, 27, 28 being at 5% and then going with 4% thereon. So yes, $120,000 isn't going to break the council's bank, but I guess it's that willingness to commit in the long term. Again, when we start discussions around that long-term financial plan in a month or so's time. And then start it all again as far as that goes. So hopefully that helps.
Councillor Ross.
Probably where I get a little bit frustrated with all this discussion, and I'll be honest, is that I don't think everyone is fully understanding the magnitude of what the comments that people say. There's a difference between an operational budget and a capital budget. Everyone's focusing on projects. Now, if you take that project out, it's not affecting it won't affect the operational budget much. So everyone's focusing on the rates. I will rip this project out and that will affect the rates. It's not going to affect the rates. So there's a number here on their third council budgets now. I think I don't feel like, I'm sorry, I'm a bit frustrated in that we should be over it a bit better than what we are now. So that's where I'm getting a bit frustrated, because if you want to look at reducing rates, you need to start focusing on service levels. So we're having this discussion later on in the year. So in regards to the roads and looking at service levels, and that's just focusing on roads. So if you're looking at, I'm happy to support a reduction in the rates and maybe bring it down to a CPI. But at the end of the day, what are we going to be doing that isn't going to affect our long-term financial plan by doing nothing and just hoping the long-term financial plan is going to improve itself? We need to look at changing the service levels. It might be that you don't grade a road 3 times, you grade it 2 times. I'm just being practical. I'm not saying that's what we're going to do. Yeah, it might be that you have the swimming lake open only for half of the summer. Okay, that's the type of thing that I know it's radical and it's not stuff that people want to hear, but it's an example. So we sound like we're talking, we can do this, we can do that, but really we're not really listening to what the staff are saying and how the budget's driven. What are the levers we pull to get what you want? So I'm happy to relook at some of the capital budgets, the Leicester Square and stuff like that, and the town centre rejuve. But at the end of the day, you're not solving the issues that people are focusing on, and that is they are finding it hard to make ends meet. I've got clients at the moment. I've got a client who's going through farm mediation. Next week he's got a meeting with the bank, and they're working out how they're going to sell them up. So I'm very much focused on trying to make it easier for people. And it's not just farmers, it's businesses, and it's the mums and the dads as well. So you rip a playground out, but then if people are finding it hard to make ends meet, a playground is happiness for a family to take down and actually enjoy an afternoon. So they just got to understand that there's other things out there that are in play. So what we need to do is also, when you read the comments that are in here, the people that made those comments in there, I can hear their hurt, but also we need to help them understand things that they're focusing on, which they think need to be ripped out of the budget, aren't necessarily the solvers of the problems. So I just think we need to be a bit more thought put into how we think we can make the budget work. Ripping staff out and getting rid of staff is not the answer either. That was one of the things that was thrown in there. Totally ridiculous. So we need to look at, okay, what do we need to be doing to help? And it might be the service. We might say, okay, let's reduce it down to CPI, but we make a commitment in the next few months. We'll look at our service levels to try to get that deficit back up to a positive. That's the type of stuff we should be looking at. So sorry if I ranted, but
you didn't rant.
No,
Councillor Ross, that was a very emotional plea. So thank you.
I don't want to go in front of someone else. I've already said something, but I'd like to add. But I don't want to go in front of someone else if they want to go first. So I suppose the debate around the 5%, 4%, and I want to be very respectful, and I'm really enjoying the debate. This is what council is about. I suppose underlying, and I know it's just going to sound a bit extravagant, but this debate is everything that's wrong with state and federal government at the moment, in that we all want to charge less tax and spend more money. So in a nutshell, recently the US government credit rating, now this is even longer a bow, but they got downgraded to a AA from a AAA rating because they believe that Trump's going to cut taxes, but they do not believe he's going to cut spending. So their whole of the business of the US has been undermined by a mistrust of government and its representatives, in that they will always want to charge less tax so they get re-elected and spend more money. Because every time we sit in this chamber, we have requests to spend money on this, we have the increase, which is in the country above CPI often. We have a country tax. So not only are we spending more money on our machinery, everything we do as a council is costing us more and more every year, and we are looking to reduce the amount we are having to spend in our pie. I think this is a real opportunity for the Narra Court Listed Adult Council to show that we are not like our state and federal cohorts. We are financially disciplined. We do what we say we're going to do, and I do agree about the Leicester Square. About Leicester Street reduction. But I think in the death by 1,000 cuts, if we reduce it by 1% this year, I think then we are putting ourselves behind the 8 ball again. And if we find in 2 years' time, which hopefully some of us are still here, that we can then offer a rate reduction, and who doesn't ever want that? But I think at this time we've made some mistakes in the past. I've been witness of the COVID mistakes we made around 0 rate rises when the area did thrive. COVID was horrible, but people made more money, not less money, and that was a mistake. So I think this decision comes from a place of real discipline, real thought, real advice, and yeah, I think I am really enjoying the debate, and I think that's probably it from me.
It is good debate, and I respect what you're saying. And Peter and I had spoken today about the 4 and the 5%. So, and I know Councillor Island, but I have thought about it a couple of hours on the ride after I spoke to you. But and I know your intentions are good. I guess probably what the conclusion I came to today is, even if we swapped it around and had 5% next year, correct me if I'm wrong, but the financial burden on the farms is still going to be here this time next year. It's not going to fix itself in 6 months. Wow. So whether we put the 5% now or next year, it doesn't. It's going to take time for the farmers to recover from this year. So that was probably my conclusion. But I see where you're coming from, and yes, today for a lot of the day I thought 4% as well. But I think I'm back to 5% and think we should stay the course.
If there's no, Councillor Turner?
Add something to have listened to the conversation. I'd be supportive of staying the course on 5, or supportive of reducing rates by whatever we agree to, say 4%. But on perhaps Councillor Ross's and Councillor Grundy's comment that we find that $120,000 out of service level or out of something, and we don't spend it. Otherwise, we're just pushing the problem down the road. So that's my position after that debate, anyway.
Very good. Councillor Grundy?
Thank you, Mayor Ross. Given the discussion and that sort of thing, would it be possible to postpone a decision on this, in that we could we ask for a report on how service levels might have been changed in this financial year to reflect some reduction, so that we can make a more informed decision? Can we lay it on the table until the next meeting, this decision?
Well, the next meeting's a very serious meeting.
So the service level discussion hasn't happened yet. That's going to take some time and some discussion with the council members, because we'll be looking at our asset management plans, we'll be looking at our master plans, we'll be looking at all of those plans and what kind of services sit under them. So to make an informed decision is not going to happen in the next couple of weeks. The June meeting of council is where this plan goes up for adoption. So technically you don't have to make a decision tonight, but for administration to have some kind of general understanding of what's going to be put up for adoption at the end of June is really critical.
Just as a question.
Councillor Ross?
Through you to Kelly.
Yep.
So when we're looking at, I think we're earmarking for the service reviews, what was it, September, October or something, isn't it?
Hopefully a bit earlier than that because of the ESCOSA review.
Okay. Yeah. That's where we as a council
Yep.
can say we're going to have a road level at this as our target. If we go, and I'm using, once again, roads as an example, I'm not saying that's what we're going to target, but how soon could we see the benefits of that reduction in service level? How, could we, if we were to do a CPI raise now, which is probably half of the 5%, so how soon would we be able to recoup that deficit?
it wouldn't be until the next financial year,
Okay.
essentially.
So really, what I'm getting at here is this is not a solution we're going to necessarily do right now. It's something that is going to be progressive, and it's about putting in the change in train. And it might be that we might be able to do our service level change for a period of time, which allows us not necessarily to have those rate increases in the next few years. We may be able to do it, we may be able to stay the course for a period of time and then maybe bring it back a little bit in the future. So
We have also had conversations about the services provided and the efficiencies we could potentially find. So that is an ongoing discussion that we'll be having at management level. We're always needing to look for those. Again, potentially won't flow on until the next financial year.
If there's no further questions, and we've been here for an hour, so the public
Back into formal.
has completed at this chamber, I'll ask someone to move us back into meeting procedure. Councillor Dennis, thank you. A second to Councillor Ross. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you very much. We have a recommendation.
We could deal with them one by one if you want.
I suppose we, in the interest of teamwork and us bonding together as a group, and we probably want to we don't want to bulldoze a recommendation through. So I suppose the hesitancy, and if the Mayor could lead us on this, the hesitancy of the room to say move a motion that would be defeated in regard to a budget is pretty unhealthy as a council. So we've had some debate. Everyone's sort of, I would like to move the motion as written with impact with the input of everyone's discussion, but I don't want to see a budget recommendation defeated either. But I suppose Peter, sorry.
Can I just make a point of clarification?
Sorry.
Can I make a point of clarification?
Yes, you may.
So tonight's decision is that this is you asking us to make amendments to the draft that will come back to council. So we'll make those amendments. We'll develop the summary paper that explains those amendments for public purposes, but you will still have a decision to make in June, and you could make a decision that's different or the same or whatever at that point.
So in fact, this is a way of moving forward, but the decision is made in the June meeting, and that's where we'll be. Councillor Ireland.
Shouldn't be standing. Thank you, Mayor Ross. I just wonder whether we should perhaps be breaking these up instead of having it as a bulk motion there. I mean, there's, there's things such as the Board of Districts Netball Club there that's, we perhaps need to talk about as a separate motion rather than group it all up.
I'm happy to take that. I'm happy to take these individually.
Can I start the ball?
You can absolutely start, Councillor Maguire.
Okay, I would like to start with number 1 and retain a 5% increase in the general rate revenue.
Councillor Maguire, move. Retain a 5% increase in the general rate revenue. Move Councillor Maguire. A seconder, Councillor Dennis. If you'd like to speak, either the mover or the seconder are allowed. Otherwise, we can go into debate or we can go straight to the vote.
I'm happy with the discussion we've had there.
Thank you. In that case, I ask all those in favour to retain a 5% increase in general rate revenue. All those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5%. Thank you very much. Carried. Item 2, would someone like to move in this direction? Councillor Turner.
Yeah, I can support that.
Would you wish to speak? Councillor Turner?
No, I think we had a good conversation about that earlier as
Thank
well.
you. And Councillor Maguire.
I'm happy to second it there.
Do you wish to speak, Councillor Maguire?
I won't be repeating myself. Sorry, thank you.
Very good. There being no further debate, I put the recommendation that we incorporate the amount of 45,000 for the Board of Districts Netball Club financial request for court fencing. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 3. Adjust the budget forecasts to reflect the third quarter budget review presented to Council at its May ordinary meeting. Someone like to move to that effect? Councillor Ireland, thank you. Seconder, Councillor Dennis. Councillor Dennis. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you very much. And then, if we wish, there are Councillor Turner.
I'd like to move that we move the Leicester Street Playground out of the 25-26 budget and push it into the following year for discussion.
And that's where it would be. I don't know whether you'd have to mention that where it goes, but you'd like to remove the Leicester Street Playground renewal from the 25-6 budget. Councillor Maguire.
I'll second that and speak to it if I can. Thanks, Mayor.
And speak to it?
If I can.
Thank you, Councillor Maguire.
Happy to stand up and say I'm a bit of a hypocrite here, not listening to the consultation. I do just want to acknowledge the consultation that we did go down with the school and the children's input into this. I understand that. Again, my decision is purely based on a comment you made as well, is we need to be seen as spending our money wisely this year, and I think a lot of people probably see that as something we could push down the track.
Thank you, Councillor Maguire. Further discussion? There being no further discussion, I put the motion. Moved by Councillor Turner, seconded by Councillor Maguire. All those in favour? Carried. Against? Thank you. Carried. Item 5. To include projects or initiatives. Silence. There's item 5 doesn't exist. Thank you very much. Right. Councillor. No, 3.4. Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor. So this relates to delegations in terms of rate remissions and hardship. At the moment, there are no delegations to any officers of this council, which is probably an oversight. Most councils have that delegation in place. So your internal financial controls do allow, I think, the manager of finance to have authority to approve some of those hardship arrangements, but this just neatens it all to make that a quick process. Otherwise, every one of those would need to come to a council meeting for consideration. Thank you.
Are there any points of clarification you request, Councillor Dennis?
Move the motion as written.
Thank you, Councillor Councillor Dennis. Councillor Turner. Thank you very much. Very good. Is it all clear to everybody? There's a lot going on there, but this certainly, it's been an oversight. So, and it's a delegation that's required.
One question. I'll close the debate if I do as a mover, but if there's no one else wants to speak, I had a question.
Leave of the meeting, Councillor Dennis.
To Mrs Edmonds. So in the event that there was a delegation required and a hardship, would that be, what level would that be brought back to council? Would we just be informally not at all, or no? Okay.
Through you, Mayor, we would bring back the general numbers for you to give you a sense of what's going on out there. Generally, it's only when it gets to a Section 184 kind of arrangement that it'll come back to council.
Yep. Okay. I might just say that I had an approach from Mrs Edmonds today that, you know, when people do come into the, to look for some rate relief, they asked if they could use my chamber, and I was delighted. You need somewhere private to be able to discuss these things. And so, we will do everything we can from an administrative point of view to acknowledge the difficulty that people are having. So that's very good. Is there any further questions of Kelly? There being none, I put the motion as written. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you very much. There being no further business, I'll close the meeting. Thank you very much.
David.